Before we dive into today's episode, I want to extend a special invitation to all of our listeners. If you're considering adoption, navigating the home study process, or simply curious about your options, RG Adoption Consulting is here to guide you. Visit our website at www.rgadoptionconsulting.com/contact to schedule a complimentary chat. Our multi-agency approach is a strategic way to accelerate your adoption process without putting all your eggs in one basket. This strategy prevents you from feeling stuck with one agency, especially after a significant financial commitment. Why not consider a multi-agency approach with lower initial fees? We believe it makes a lot more sense. Plus, the support and education you receive through our services are aspects you might not expect you'll need until you're deep into the process. Reach out to us at rgadoptionconsulting.com/contact. We're here to support your adoption journey every step of the way. Your dream is to become a mom. My dream is to help you get there. I'm Rebecca Gruenspan, a single mom through domestic adoption and an adoption consultant for over a decade. I'll be your guide, along with other adoption professionals and members of the adoption constellation, walking you step by step down this beautiful and complex path of adopting your baby. When I was going through the adoption process, I had no idea what I was doing, what I needed to know, or more importantly, who to trust. Well, after helping hundreds and hundreds of families grow through the beauty and complexity of adoption, I've learned more than a thing or two, and let me tell you, it's not always rainbows and butterflies. This isn't just another podcast sharing adoption stories, but it's for you if you're genuinely committed to diving in with an open heart, eager to learn everything there is to know about adopting a baby so that you can show up for yourself and your child in the best way possible. This podcast is for you if you're ready to put your newfound knowledge into action. Adoption isn't for the weak of heart, and it certainly isn't done when your baby gets placed in your arms. If that's what you think, I'm afraid you're living in La La Land. My promise to you is to keep it real if you promise to keep digging. We'll acknowledge the hard, and we'll also celebrate the joy that is adoption. You ready? Let's do this. Welcome to This Week in Adoption. It is me, Rebecca Gruenspan, the founder, the CEO of RG Adoption Consulting. We got a lot to talk about today, and it's not politics. That's a whole nother thing going on in my mind and my body and my soul. But we're not talking about that. This is not the time nor the place. So as I come to you in October of 2024, let's talk about a couple things. So I have been doing all of our inquiry calls. We get on live, on a Google Meet, face-to-face. I answer questions, and inevitably, almost every single person asks about financials. So let's talk about it. Money, 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 money makes the world go round, the world go round, the world go round. That's my segue into this little segment that I'm gonna be talking about. Money, financials, and adoption. Here we go. It's fucking expensive. There's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. So what is this money going towards? Well, let's go from the top to the minute. All in, I have heard people saying 60 to 70. I have heard people saying 50 to 60. I have, seen both. So let's just say 50 to 70 all in. And that depends on a lot of different things. And it's impossible to compare apples to apples in adoption. So it depends on, are you using a consultant or not? Are you going with one agency or multiple agencies? Are you going with one agency that wants 20 grand up front, or are you going with agencies that want very little up front? Are you matching with a mom who's early in her pregnancy or that the baby is born? Sometimes that makes a difference, sometimes it doesn't. Is the agency including finalization in their fees, or is that something that you're going to have to pay later? All of these things play into the cost of adoption. Have you experienced a fall through? Meaning you've been matched once, you went through the entire match, mom gave birth and then changed her mind. So now you've lost tens of thousands of dollars and are doing it again for the second time. So all of those factors play into what the full cost of adoption is. So let's break it down. First of all, if you work with a consultant, which if I give you no other piece of advice, heed this, if you will. Don't try this at home by yourself. Don't do this alone. Put a team together of people you trust, starting with a consultant that you trust. A good consultant is going to, I'm going off on a tangent now, away from money, but we'll get back to it. A good consultant is going to truly prepare you for what this process looks like, is going to feel like, what the legals are, what the things are that you really need to know in order to be an adoptive parent to begin with. I can't tell you how many times on an inquiry call I'm telling people what it means to say you want to adopt a white baby with no drug exposure or whatever, that when I'm talking to someone, I'm like, you're talking about surrogacy, you're not talking about adoption. And at the end, they're like, oh my God, this was so helpful. Thank you so much for just putting the truth out there, like really laying it out so that we fully understand and don't feel like a rug has been pulled out from under us. So they're going to help really prepare you, educate you, get everything you need together, guide you to the places you need to go, tell you what you need to do when and how to do it, what to do, what not to do, what to learn about when, challenge you when you're being unreasonable or your expectations are a little off, which are all things you need. And an agency alone may not do all those things, right? So anyways, back to financials. So a consultants can be anywhere from $1,500 to $10,000, depending on what is included in those costs. Which brings me to another factor. You need to know when you are paying any entity, what is included in that cost. What are the timelines? You need to know a lot of things, but at least know what's included and am I going to need to pay anything else in additional if I work with you. Okay. Then we have the home study. The home study, again, depending on your state, where you live, the agency, how they charge and do things, is going to probably range between $1,000 and $5,000, right? Also, part of that depends on, do they include post-placement visits in the cost of the home study, which is something you need. I'm not going to go into all the things and what it is, what everything means, but do you need or does the cost of post-placement visits fall under what they're telling you a home study costs? Then you have to put together your profile. Your profile may cost additional unless you're working with a consultant like RG Adoption Consulting, who includes that in their fees, but many consultants don't include that in their fees, and they have providers that they'll tell you about, and a profile can cost you anywhere from, I think, $700 to $2,000. And then once you have your profile, you are going to apply to an agency, one or many. I personally think you should not put all your eggs in one basket. And when it comes to adoption, more is more. You go to a financial planner, they're likely going to tell you to diversify your money. I'm telling you to diversify your money too. And that also means you're going to be paying a lot less money up front, and the bulk of it is going to come later once you're in a match that you're comfortable with. So you decide. Signing up with agencies. I think you can sign up with 3 agencies for about $5,000. And then you start seeing situations and you match. Now, how much do you pay? This is where the bulk comes in. There is going to be, and before you present to any situation, you will know, or at least you should know, you're going to know what the cost does, what the overall fee is, and what the risk amount is, or at least you should know those 2 numbers. Like, what's the overall fee? You might want to know, does that include finalization or not? And what's the risk amount if it falls through? This number can range from $35,000 to $85,000. Legit. Can range, you heard me right, from $35,000 to $80,000. So what in God's name could that possibly include? An agency is going to have their overall fee, and they might have an additional matching fee. I don't know. Some of it is crazy, and I don't even know how to decipher all of these things, but agency fee, matching fee, advertising fee, if they pay a big fee to advertise for birth moms, counseling fees, and living expenses for expectant mom. I'm not going to go into what all that includes, but just know that you want to be taking care of the expectant mom who might be carrying your baby. You want to make sure she's well taken care of. So that includes, is she homeless? Is she not homeless? Does she have Medicaid? Most of them do. Or is there medical expenses? Is she traveling? Are you traveling? Is the agency traveling? All of this plays into what the total fees are. Some agencies have a flat fee, and no matter what the situation is, it's always going to be the same fee. And then finalization fees, if they're included in there or not, is probably an additional $3,000 to $5,000 for an attorney to finalize. So that's what's all included. There may be some extra things here and there. If you have a consult with the doctor, if you need extra consultations with an attorney, if it's a if for some reason the situation has to go to court, which don't get scared about that. It rarely does. But these are all things that add into the cost. Your travel, if you're adopting from another state, travel expenses, flights and hotels and all of that. So that's what is included in the financials. The other thing I want to bring up, and I'm not going to dig into this because I am not technically a therapist, although I have my master's in social work. I have not been, I let that license go away. When you're reading about adoption situations, the mental health piece is really difficult and complicated and confusing. And I say this because, and again, I am not a licensed mental health professional that is practicing in that field right now, but sometimes you can't determine if what they are saying is environmental. Has it been diagnosed, and when? Are they on medications? Is it substance induced? Meaning if they're a drug addict very actively, could what's happening with them mental health wise be connected to the drugs that they're taking? Is what they have reported mental health wise hereditary? Sometimes they're telling you things about their parents. And again, all those questions. So is it diagnosed? Is it self-diagnosed? These are all things that you have to take into consideration when considering whether or not you want to present and whether or not you are truly comfortable with everything that is presenting. And that's where I really recommend having a doctor on your team. I am going to shout out to Dr. Sarah Silvestri, who we use all the time. And I know a lot of other adoption entities have been starting to use her as well. She is a wealth of knowledge and is very reasonable as to her consultations. A lot of our families have been using her lately, and we have started including a consultation with her in some of our programs. So these are all things you need to think about ahead of time. And also, I also get this comment all the time that we really want to adopt a healthy baby. And I think what that translates to, if I was really going to read between the lines, what people are actually saying is, we don't want a baby that has drug exposure. Now, one doesn't always equate with the other. Sometimes no exposure, a non-healthy baby. Sometimes exposure's a healthy baby. In fact, many times with opioid exposed babies, they are very healthy. They might go through an initial withdrawal, and then they tend to do just fine. From what I've learned, again, not a doctor. Okay. Before we go on, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go away. We still have so much to talk about. Hey there, Adoption Roadmap fam. Are you ready to take the next step on your journey to parenthood? If so, head over to our website and take our quiz. It's called, Are You Ready to Adopt? It's not just about testing your knowledge. It's about making sure you're emotionally and practically prepared for the beautiful, complex journey of adoption. Let's make your dream of parenthood a reality. Go to rgadoptionconsulting.com and take the Are You Ready to Adopt quiz today. That's rgadoptionconsulting.com. The quiz is free, and it will let you know where you are in the process and if you're ready to jump into your adoption journey. Going on to the next segment of This Week in Adoption. We are going to talk stats, Q3 stats. I don't think I have done that yet. But before I do that, let me just read you the mission of my company, RG Adoption Consulting. Our mission is that we empower families seeking adoption through expert advice and compassionate support to turn dreams of parenthood into reality filled with love, understanding, and joy. So actually, last year, Q3, we had 22 new clients. And this year, Q3 2024, 22 new clients. 13 placements this quarter, or Q3, which is down. Last year at this time, we had 24 placements. So placements overall across the country are down from what I hear from everyone for the most part, but we had 13 families adopt and 52 year to date, which is still very exciting. 52 families by the end of September had adopted, which is exciting. Still not seeing any particular agency that we work with that account for the majority of our placements. So still coming from all over the place. And same with fall throughs. Like, is there one agency that has the most situations that are falling through? No. We have 22 new clients. What else can I tell you? Hold on. Getting to the interesting things. Okay. Mostly heterosexual couples took placement. We had 2 single women take placement in Q3. No same-sex couples took placement in Q3, which is very odd for us because we usually, and we'll see how it turns out at the end of the year. But mostly heterosexual couples took placement. We sent out 125 situations that we received from agencies and attorneys. To date, we have well over 130 that we've received, and typically about 20% of what we receive are matched with one of our families. And we saw exactly that in Q3. We had 23 families, which is 18%, matched through a situation that I received from not an agency that those families were signed up with, if that makes sense. Q3 2024, we had 8 boys and 7 girls adopted. Last year in Q3, there were 18 girls and 6 boys. So it's back to about 50-50. We also saw of our placements, 47% were white, 20% were Hispanic, 13% Black, 7% a white mix, and 13% Black and Hispanic. A more diverse quarter than last year at this time, I'll tell you. All right, here's where things get a little interesting, that we're seeing a little shift that we don't like. All right. Start date to adoption in Q3. So starting with us until they adopted. So from the day they started with us, we have people who start with us who have a home study already and are just off to the races, and others who are starting brand new without a home study. 15% of the people who adopted within 1 to 3 months of working with us. 15% adopted within 4 to 6 months of working with us. 7%, or almost 8%, 7 to 9 months of working with us, and almost 8%, 10 to 12 months from working with us. So about 45% adopted in less than a year from signing up with us. The rest were anywhere from 1 to, 3 years. So that has definitely skewed up. And then if we look at the time, from the time they signed up with their agencies to adoption, let's look at that. So we had one person who waited for over 2 years from the time they signed up with their agencies. 2 people who waited between 1 and 2 years from the time they signed up with their agency. 2 that adopted in 10 to 12 months from signing up with agencies. 2 that adopted within 7 to 9 months of signing up with agencies. 4 that adopted within 4 to 6 months of signing up with their agencies. And 2 that adopted in 1 to 3 months from signing up with their agencies. So 3 people waited over a year, and the rest were under a year from signing up with their agencies, which is usually what we tell people when I have a call with them, because everybody wants to know, how long is it going to take? We never know. We can't make a promise, but still to this date, from signing up with your agencies, which is pretty much what you need in order to even adopt, it's still taking less than a year. So thank goodness. Fall throughs are still way higher than we want them to be, but I don't want to quote anything yet there or share any statistics there until the end of the year, because one quarter could really skew the whole scheme of things. So I don't think that that's as important as where we end up at the end of the year. What I will tell you is that people who had fall throughs, the majority by 1, were matched with a match time of 5 to 6 months, meaning mom was due 5 to 6 months after they were matched. And then 3 were matched with somebody for 1 to 2 months and then it fell through. 3 were matched with somebody for less than a month and it fell through. And then a couple at 3 to 4 months. Client demographics of our new clients: 5% Black, 73% white, 22% biracial, any races. 21 were married and 1 single. Q3. That, again, these are going to be totally different at the end of the year. But what this does tell me, and what I want to tell all of you, is that Black families are needed. When I have a full Black couple, or even a biracial couple, but full Black especially, they don't wait very long. In fact, we just had a new Black couple sign up, and literally the day they signed up, I'm like, I know this is crazy, but I'm presenting you with a baby born situation. We're still waiting on who she chose, but crazy how fast that can go. Okay, so the majority of people who place, and again, we'll get a bigger picture at the end of the year, most were fully open, direct contact and visits. The next was semi-open, so sending pictures and communication through the agency. There was 1 that was closed, and that's when a mom is requesting for a closed adoption, but who knows? You never know if it's going to open up. Then when I look at the cost, and this is just the piece of how much did the particular match cost. This isn't the whole adoption. This isn't including the home study. It's not included finalization. It's not including a consultant, but the match itself, we had 3 that were 41 to 49,000, 2 20 to 30,000, 2 50 to 55,000, 2 56 to 60,000, 1 61 to 70,000, and 1 over 70,000. There were a couple that we're not sure about. So all over the board. And I know that there are some consultants who literally only see situations that are over 60 or even, 60 to 80. Most, luckily, we've been asking this, most of the birth moms who placed their baby did have legal representation from what the families know. Only 1 reported that she didn't. It is always a good idea, whether it's a legality or not, to ask for the birth mom to have legal representation before she signs. And as far as exposures, and this is something that this was actually a really exciting stat. 9 people who took placement, their moms didn't have any exposure. What we didn't look at is race, but typically we know that the majority of white women are using. Black women usually are not using. Hispanic is like 50-50. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. But 9 people who took placement, no exposures. And then we did see a couple with fentanyl, 1 with meth. We're always going to see a lot of marijuana. Most of our families are coming through referrals from adoption agencies, which is awesome. Our past clients, Google, Instagram, and that's awesome. And I think those are the things that you would care about. So that's what's going on in statistics. And then I just wanted to leave you. I just wrote out for a marketing group that I'm in. It's been a long time since I really circled back to my story. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about me if we've never met. And so here it goes. At 40 years old, standing at a crossroads I never anticipated, I found myself single, living in a 1-bedroom condo in Chicago and working for a nonprofit. The life I'd envisioned, a loving husband, a house filled with children, and a large yard where we would enjoy a crisp fall day together, seemed like a distant dream. Yet one aspiration burned brighter than ever. becoming a mother. Despite fears and societal expectations, I decided to take control of my destiny. After a year of back-to-back fertility treatments that felt like an emotional roller coaster, multiple consultations with doctors, acupuncture, herbal remedies, and pelvic massage, I was exhausted. I faced the heart-wrenching realization that my body wasn't cooperating with my dreams. Who can relate? Heartache lingered, but giving up was not an option. With a mix of fear and hope, I turned to adoption, a path unfamiliar to me, beyond my own assumptions, yet one that ultimately led me to fulfill my dream of becoming a mother, and so much more. Sharing my decision wasn't easy. Questions and doubts echoed around me. Don't you want your own baby? Parenting is hard enough with two parents. Why are you giving up on finding a husband? But I knew deep down that motherhood isn't always defined by biology or marital status. Through an adoption consultant, I began navigating the intricate maze of home studies, profiles, and agency applications. And despite being told that my age, my single status, and Jewish faith might make my journey more difficult, I was chosen by an expectant mother in just 3 months. Meeting her was humbling. Her strength and grace shattered any preconceived notions I had about birth mothers. When I first held my son, a beautiful baby with gorgeous brown skin, I am as white can be, and a head full of black hair, I felt a profound connection. Tears of joy streamed down my face as I embraced this precious boy who was now a part of me. My life changed in that instant. It became richer, more complex, and filled with love I hadn't known was possible. Parenting as a single mother has been both challenging and rewarding. There are moments of exhaustion, juggling the demands of running my own business and doing my best to raise a confident, healthy, and happy boy. I've grappled with concerns about being an older parent. Can you relate? Anybody? Raising a child of a different race than my own, and ensuring that my son has strong male role models. Challenges are inevitable, but solutions are usually found along the way. Motherhood through adoption has fulfilled me in ways I could have never imagined. Inspired by my journey, I founded RG Adoption Consulting in 2013. My mission is to guide hopeful adoptive parents through the domestic adoption process with empathy and expertise. Since then, my team and I have helped almost 500 families, pinch me, across the United States realize their dreams of parenthood. We provide personalized support, recognizing that every adoption story is unique. Today, I pinch myself, grateful for the path that led me here. My son, now a vibrant teenager, and I share an unbreakable bond forged through love, resilience, and the courage to embrace the unexpected. Together, we're living a story that, while different from the one I imagined, for sure, is more beautiful than I ever could have dreamed. My journey taught me that sometimes the most extraordinary blessings come when we dare to write our own narratives. Thank you for joining me in This Week in Adoption. See you next week. Bye-bye. Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Adoption Roadmap podcast. If you did, I have a few favors to ask of you. First, please hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And while you're at it, I'd love to hear your takeaways. Please write a review and let me know what you liked. And if you have a question or a suggestion on what you'd like to hear, I'd love to hear that too. Please shoot me an email at support@rgadoptionconsulting.com and let me know what you'd like to hear about. And if you have a question, I may just answer it online. Thanks again for listening. Tune in every Wednesday and Friday morning for a brand new episode of the Adoption Roadmap podcast. Until next time, bye-bye.